We're live again? Yeah, I think I'm live. Okay. Looks like I'm back. I have no idea what just happened, guys. Sorry. Just noticed my screen went blank and then my channel said I was offline, so I don't know what happened there, but I'm back. I plan on streaming for at least another hour-ish, to at least 3 o'clock. Maybe a little bit longer if I'm almost done with this, and I just need a little more time. So if I get kicked off again and it's not quite 3 o'clock, you guys can hang around for another minute. I'll be back shortly. 'Cause I don't plan on cutting it short today. I've said it a few times during the stream, but I think it's worth repeating. If you guys have any questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing, how I'm doing, feel free to ask. Or if you just want to chat about other stuff, that's cool too. Since I'm drawing an old school anime style here, I say old school, it's not that old. But what's your guys' favorite animes from the 80s and 90s, if you have any? I lost my music too. Macros. Yes. Now, do you know it as Macros or Robotech, or both? You know it as, well, I don't know. Your Robotech comment, I don't know if that was answering me or if you were just commenting. I know there's a lot of people out there that are, I guess, purists for. You first saw that it was Robotech. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are purists out there that like hate Robotech because it is such a Frankenstein monster of anime. kind of thrown together, kind of like how Voltron was, just a bunch of different animes kind of stitched together to make Voltron. Robotech also did that. So a lot of people are like, it's not Robotech, it's Macross. Robotech isn't the real thing. Alright, I think we're just about done with the shadows. Just gotta put some shadows. All 3 parts of Macross, that's awesome. Have you seen the movie? I think it's called, like Macross Minus? Like the minus sign? But I think it's spelled out. I saw that a couple years ago, and that was awesome. Yeah, there's a few Macross movies out there. Some are way better than others, that's for sure. Some of them are very anime. And by very anime, I mean you just sit there wondering, what are you watching? But Minus is really good. Ah, yeah, Akira. Oh man, talk about a classic. Have you ever read the comic? Because the comic is like so much longer. The movie is great. But the movie only covers like 10% of the story. The movie picks up like halfway through the actual manga and does not go to the end. Oh yeah, it is good. It's a classic. Alright, I think we got the shadows in. So let's let's do a secondary light source here. Let's do this blue color for secondary light source. Is it better? I wouldn't say it's better. It makes everything makes more sense. Because when you're watching the Akira movie, it's great, but you're kind of like, what's going on? Like, I don't really get it. But the anime explains it all. Or the anime, I'm sorry, the manga explains it all. And it gets crazy. Yeah, it wasn't so confusing that you couldn't like follow it or enjoy it, but it did leave a lot of questions. And it doesn't. I don't want to give the impression that the manga explains like everything, where like there's no questions at all, but there's less questions. Everything makes a little bit more sense. I think we're gonna put in some highlights next. And then we're gonna get to what I've been looking forward to all stream. Making it look like an old anime. Right. one anime I loved before I even knew what anime was. I didn't have cable growing up, so I didn't have Toonami like a lot of people did. I had UPN, and they had an anime on there called Technoman, or in the Japanese, it's Tekkaman. Man, I love that anime. I don't even fully understand it. It's nuts. And I just watched the crap out of that one. Alright, I think that's the highlights. So, I'm not sure if I want to kind of like blur and desaturate. Oh, Game of Thrones tomorrow? I don't know. I stopped watching that after season 3, so I don't know what's up with Game of Thrones. But as I was saying, I don't know if I want to desaturate and kind of blur it like I did the background yet. What I want to do first is is that too much? I'll leave it for now. Why? It just didn't. I don't know. It simply. I didn't care enough to go back and continue watching it. After season 3 ended and season 4 came back, I just had no desire to go watch it. Alright, so let me save this. We can make any of these adjustments if we wanted to a little bit later. Oh, I'm just using a brush for the highlights. This, all this cell shading, I'm doing on a different layer. So this is just the flats, and then that's the shadows. So if I'm doing a highlight, I'm just taking my normal drawing pen tool and just throwing down the color. And then if I want to get rid of some of it, I just erase it. Just like here, like I'll just go into my eraser version and just go in and just takes that space right out. And it's the layers here, it's at 40%. Like if I raise this to 100%, it looks like that. So that doesn't look too good. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing, but it's not great. So if I lower the opacity to about 40% here, you get that dark color, but then also you get the color underneath it to blend. So you get a nice blending of shadow colors with the base color. The worst thing, my students do this. I've seen other not amateur artists do this. They want to use just a darker red or like a darker blue, or whatever they're coloring. They just use a darker version, but you want to change the hue. You don't want to have just a dark blue be the shadow color, because when light interacts with objects, it changes the color. So you want to change the hue a little bit. So taking a deep purple and lowering the opacity so it mixes in our eyes with the blue underneath, you change the hue of the blue. it's not just a dark blue anymore, it's kind of like a purplish blue. And so it makes for a better shadow that way. Same thing with the highlights. Don't just pick white or a lighter blue, I pick like a yellow, a very light yellow, but then it kind of mixes with the blue to get a better color there. All right, so I took a layer here of let's see. So let me set it to normal here. So I was feeling so nostalgic. I wanted kind of that old VCR look to it. So I pulled this image of an old VHS play, and I set it to screen here, so all the black becomes transparent. And we start to get the kind of like the green and the texture of the screen in there. But that's not going to be enough to get this to feel it's not going to be enough to make it feel like an old VHS anime. Oh yeah, purple and yellow. Now, purple and yellow are the colors I use the most often, but they don't work in every circumstance. Sometimes you might need to use some green. You might need to use some oranges, sometimes reds. It really depends on the colors you're using and the color palette you're working with, but most of the time, purple and yellow will work for you. All right, so I'm going to do kind of what I did last time here. Put my pen away. So I'm going to actually, you know what? This is what I'm going to do first. Alright, hold on one sec. I gotta switch my setup for a sec. Oh, this piece... this piece I'm doing isn't actually a commission. I meant this just to be a warm-up, but I'm getting way too into it, so I'm just gonna finish it. I was just feeling nostalgic and just wanted to draw some 90s anime-looking stuff. But hold on one sec. I gotta change my setup just for a half a sec. So, be back in like a minute. All right, I'm back. Thanks for hanging out. I had to switch over to Photoshop here. All right, so this is what I want to do. This is the game plan here. So I want this to look a little bit more like a 90s anime. So I know this is old, and I'm making myself look really old when I do this, when I talk about this. But when you watch an old VHS, the way that the tape worked and the way that the colors worked, you would have what's called chromatic aberration, where it happens sometimes with cheap cameras too, where the yellow, blue, and yellow, blue, and red. No, wait, I'm saying it wrong. The red, the green, and the blue. There we go. Sorry. The red, green, and blue channels kind of separate a little bit, so it doesn't. They're not lined up perfectly. This doesn't happen now with digital media. Not as much with digital media. Like I said, some cheap cameras, you'll see it. So I want to create that aberration here. So what we have to do, two things here. First, we have to merge all these layers. But before we even do any of that, I want to duplicate all of this. Because just in case the worst happens, I don't want to lose all the work I've done. Alright, so now we're going to merge the line art, the background, and the colors. Alright, so we want to merge layers. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to adjustments. Lighten this up just a little. Saturate just a little too much. That's probably too much. Needs to be subtle. If you do too much, it's not going to look right. So depending on the size of the screen you're looking at, you might not really notice, but if I zoom in here, you'll see I kind of desaturated it a little bit and blurred it just a little. Because as great as VHSs were at the time, they were not the crispest, cleanest looking art. A way to consume art, I should say. Alright, and now we're going to duplicate this layer a few times. Alright. Nope, you didn't miss it, green count. Alright, so now I want to, like I said, the way the old VHSs worked, it slightly separated the colors, so I have to slightly separate the colors, but I can't just do that from here. What I gotta do is I created several new layers of the same thing, and each one's going to represent a channel. So I have to go to levels here, pick a color. So I'll pick red, and I want the value of the red to be 0. And then green, I also want that to be 0. So that's my blue channel. That's our red channel. This is going to be our green. Jeez. Alright, look at this. There's our green channel. Alright. Now I gotta set all of these to lighten. This all right, so now what I'm going to do on my keyboard here is just shift these different layers just slightly off here. So maybe 2 clicks. Then the red layer, I'll go the other way a click or 2. That was too much. I'll put the green layer up 1. See, if I go too far, things start getting really blurry, and you obviously want to avoid that. Actually, that looks pretty good. So what do you think? Does that look like an old 90s anime? So I'm looking at my preview screen over here. It looks a little different than how it looks on my monitor. So I'm curious what you guys think. Does this look like an old 80s or 90s anime? Or is it a little off? Digging it. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, so then let's give this a save. Yeah, you like to play in the corner? I think I might go find a higher resolution play button to put there, just so it's a little more clear. But I think this gets the point across, and I think that makes for a pretty good illustration. So I think what I'm going to do here, I think I can switch this over without having to. I saved it. If I click over here, I did it. Okay, cool. I didn't have to go switch. All right, so I think we can call this piece done. So let's switch over to our next commission. So this piece is an original character that I was commissioned to draw. The character's name is Snow Maiden. She's a superhero. As you can see, I've already drawn it. I already put in the flats. So let's put in the actual values here. So this one's a little different than what I normally... If I was designing the character like War Angel here, like even though I drew her in a 90s style, this is my character, my basic design. And so I try to balance out the colors as best as I can. Now, this character, not that the colors aren't balanced, but she's very pale. Like her skin is very pale. Her hair is white. She has white, I don't know, fur, I guess, on the sleeves. Excuse me. Now, her design overall is well balanced, but what you can't see with just drawing a bust here, like all the blue that's part of her body outfit, because it's black on the top and then has a lot of blue coloring in the arms and the body. So we don't see that. So we just have a very dark top and a very pale hair and skin. So it looks a little off. But we can definitely work with that. It is not a problem. So the first thing we're going to do is duplicate the color layer here. Just in case I make a terrible, terrible mistake, I can go back. And let's first thing I like to do before I get too into anything is just bare basics, lay in where the shadows and highlights are going to be. Because she's so pale, my normal purple isn't going to work here. So I'm going to have to push a little bit more towards the red. A little bit better. So the whole point of this is just to hit the areas where I want shadows to be. I'm not worried too much about being precise. I'm not too worried about making it look nice and clean. I just need to know where the shadows are going to be. Where the highlights are going to be. Excuse me. That's a good start. Let's do the same thing with the hair here. Now, since you always have to make sure you pick the right color for what you're doing here, so I always like using purples, but there's more than one kind of purple. There's, more reddish purple, there's bluish purple. So for her skin, it was better to have a more reddish purple, which actually I want to kind of go back to that real quick. Because human beings, we have a lot of warmth in our skin. There's a lot of reds and oranges in it. So using a cool color purple is going to kind of make the character look a little more dead. And we obviously don't want that. And I'm going to actually... let's put a little color in the cheeks real quick. That looks good. All right. And again, I'm going to refine all these details in a little bit. But let's get all the lights and darks in here. So her hair, I think I want a little bit of a cooler. It's a little too blue. There we go. So having more of a bluish purple here works much better for her hair. All right, I'll catch you Tuesday, Green Count. Thanks for stopping by. Right. So let's put in some brights here. That looks actually pretty good. We're gonna do the same thing here. So how's everyone else doing? So here's actually something kind of interesting. So I have to put in the shadows and highlights for something that's already very dark. It doesn't make any sense for me to go darker because I already have the black ink. And the color is already very dark, so if I go much darker, that's not going to really make a good... it's not going to really look great color-wise. So I'm going to pick still a dark color, but lighter than the base color here to kind of create like a reflected color here in the shadow area. And then I'm still going to pick a lighter color for the highlighted section. All right, that's working. So let's get these lips a little bit valued here. All right. So that gives me just the basic where the lights and shadows are going to go. So now I can start being more specific, actually using shadows and highlights to actually form the art. Now when I did my anime War Angel over here, all I did was just a cell shading. So I just threw a layer of like purple that overlaid everything to show to depict the shadow. But here, oops, since I'm going for more of a, I don't want to say painterly look, it's not going to be really that painterly, but more of like a realistic gradient, I have to be a little more specific here. And I can't be as just flat. And I can't have as many hard edges. Fix this hairline up a little bit. So let's start with the hair. Actually, real quick, I lost my music again. Oh, hold on, guys. all right. Pretty good. Let's put in some highlights. Right. Hit that. Whoops. Alright, I think this hair is looking pretty good. Alright. So this piece still needs a bunch of work. I still need to, put in shadows, highlights for the face, body, eyes, everything. Pretty much just the hair is done, and even then I think I'm going to tweak it a little bit before I call it done. But it's pretty close. But I think with that, I'm going to call it a day. I haven't eaten lunch yet, and I'm starting to get hungry. I had a really great time. I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did enjoy it and you want to help me make more art, there's my Patreon there. There's coffee. You can follow me. You can do all the things. And I'll be back Tuesday. Oh, that reminds me. Tuesday, I'm going to do a tutorial where I'm going to critique your guys' artwork. So if you guys, I've already gotten about 5 pieces in. What I'm going to critique. I'm going to take the time, basically saying what the art's doing well, what the art needs to improve on. I'll probably draw over it to kind of show and demonstrate how it can be improved upon. If you want to get in on that, my Twitter should be down below. Tweet at me the piece of art that you want me to critique. Right now I have 2 figures, actually 3 figures in a comic book page. So if you want me to look at your comics, I am more than happy to do that. Give your comics a critique. I'm not going to give a critique on story. It's going to be a critique on the actual art and how the page is laid out and all that stuff. So if you want to do that, tweet at me the artwork. And yeah, I'll see you on Tuesday. I think Tuesday is going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually very excited for that. My schedule should also be down below. It's 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time to 11. Or if we end early, we end early. If we go late, we go late. But I usually try to schedule about 2 hours-ish for my streams. And yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys Tuesday. All right, bye, everyone.